What's good, y'all? It's your boy Big Smiley back again. And before we get started, as always, make sure to put your mask on because we're about to start with some quarantine quality Corona content. And also, before we get started, make sure to smash that like button and hit that subscribe button so that you never miss the Q quality C content. Okay, so if you haven't seen my first video, well, first of all, if you haven't seen it, make sure to go check it out. But if you have seen it, you'll know that I'll be doing a bunch of different playlists on my YouTube channel. And one of them will be the logical ideas, sort of like the weird logical ideas that are concerning people. And those could be like something that you don't usually talk about with people, or something that doesn't usually bring up in small talk, but usually, you always have these ideas coming through your head and like, okay, like really, like, can you sort of deduct something cool out of it? And today's question is a classic one, right? And it is water wet? And this is my answer. Yes, water is wet. Okay, so let's start with definitions, right? So if you look up on Google wetness, right? It means the state or condition of being covered or saturated with water and another liquid. Sort of the dampness, right? And that's the most common definition that's used. And if you don't believe me, you can check it on Google. So that definition is really helpful for us, right? Because we're clearing things out and we're going to use that to sort of help our way to argue through why water is indeed wet. So let's get started, right? Water is composed with a bunch of H2O molecules, which helps us understand the relationship between water and H2O molecule, right? So we have this relationship where an H2O molecule, and we're talking about a single H2O molecule, it has to be water, but water does not always have to be a singular H2O molecule, right? And this is a really useful definition. And we know that H2O molecules are bonded with each other through hydrogen bonds, which we commonly refer to as H bonds. Which means that if you pick a single H2O molecule, it is in contact or it is covered with another H2O molecule. Because in liquid state, you have really sort of, they're not freely flowing, right? Like the H2O molecules are not freely flowing like they are in vapor state. Well, not vapor state, but like in gaseous state, let's say. As they are in, in liquid state, they're not free to move around. So therefore, an H2O molecule is in contact with another H2O molecule. Therefore, because we're saying H2O molecule is water, an H2O molecule is bonded to an H2O molecule is the same as an H2O molecule bonded with water, right? So therefore, the H2O molecule is covered with water. Hence, water is wet. Well, hold on right there, right? The important axiom and postulate we're using here is we're sticking with the commonly used assumption of water as being liquid, right? This is what we commonly refer to when we're saying water in the context of being wet. Because, well, imagine if we're talking about the vapor state, then we know that air is partially composed of water.
Actually, what I meant to say in this case is, say if you are in a steam room and you wear glasses, then your glasses get wet. However, they get wet because the water vapor first condenses into liquid form, and that liquid form is exactly what's making it wet.
Basically, right? What we mean by that usually is that means that we pour some water onto it, and we pour some liquid water onto it such that it is in contact, and now it is wet. That's how we call it. So that's the axiom postulate that we're using, and the axiom or the postulate, you can use those two words interchangeably, is something that we use commonly in logical proof. It's like an assumption that we believe to be true, and I think it's really important to pick an axiom here because there's a lot of people arguing, okay, here's why water is wet and here's why water is not wet. But if you pick an axiom and postulate, it helps us deduce why water is indeed wet. And I think in this case, it's a reasonable axiom to pick because this is how we commonly refer to as being wet, right? Like, in the SAT, expression of ideas, or whatever that section is called in the writing section, you have like these questions like of the words that you commonly use, and in the context of wet, like sort of the meaning, what that means is, like liquid water is what's most commonly talked about. Yeah, and the reason why I'm mentioning gaseous states is because, well, sort of the logic that I just talked about of water being, or a water molecule being covered with a bunch of other water molecules, it does not work whenever you have a singular molecule. But here's the thing. A singular water molecule can only be single only in its vapor state, right? Like it's possible only when it's in vapor state. Or like let's say gaseous state, right? But not necessarily in liquid state. It cannot be in liquid state, right? This is not just possible. It's just not physically possible, or like chemically or physically, yeah, whatever it is. So we don't really care about that case. Therefore, in our axiom and postulate that we just sent, water is wet in all cases. But yeah, as always, I'm open for your comments. Make sure to comment down below what you think about this sort of train of thoughts. And if you have any contesting arguments, I want to hear them, right? I want to hear why you think, or like if there's any flaw that you find in my arguments, I want to hear them, right? So make sure to comment down below, and we're going to have a good conversation. All right, anyways, thank you so much, guys, for watching this video. And we're going to definitely have more of these quirky conversations, per se. But I think it's very important to have these conversations because, as I mentioned, in quarantine, you don't usually do much things that are necessarily logical, right? School is more laid back, you're just covered in day-to-day, just stay in your room, watch YouTube videos like you're watching right now, and you may not have necessarily the opportunity to exercise your logic as much as you did before. So therefore, I think this is very valuable and helpful, as much quirky as it is. All right, I'll see you guys later.